in the Department of Justice go after Democrats for being Democrats. They say stupid stuff out loud on television. They admit to being vindictive. They admit to using the tools of prosecution to go after people, not because they committed any crimes, but because they're political adversaries of Donald Trump. And we just had it happen over the weekend with Ed Martin. Remember him? MAGA Jan 6 lawyer who couldn't get confirmed as the U.S. attorney for D.C. And now he's the special attorney appointed by the most corrupt Department of Justice in history, and Pam Bondi, to go after Leticia James and go after Adam Schiff on mortgage fraud issues, while they try to pin them down and Leticia James down by investigating her attorney general's office for obtaining a $500 million civil fraud judgment in New York. But Ed Martin went on television this weekend and basically conceded that they're violating the Department of Justice manual, they're violating due process, and they are the epitome of vindictive prosecution. I'm Michael Popok, shaking his head once again here on the Midas Touch Network and on Legal AF. Ed Martin, thank you for saying out loud to Maria Bartiromo that which we have always been saying on the Midas Touch Network and Legal AF from the beginning, that this administration, this Department of Justice, is only concerned with going down Donald Trump's retribution and vindictiveness list and go after his political enemies. They're all blue. They all have Democrat next to their name. Donald Trump doesn't care about crime. He doesn't care about national security. He just cares about trying to embarrass the leaders of the Democratic Party. And Ed Martin just said the quiet part out loud. Let's take a listen to Ed Martin on Maria Bartiromo. Roll the clip.
When Bill Pulte sends a criminal referral over to us, and he says Leticia James and Adam Schiff, and by the way, both their lawyers have come out and talked publicly about that criminal referral. So you can talk to them about the specifics, because I'm going to tell you what we're going to do is we're going to follow the facts. Every American that has a mortgage or has other documents they sign has to follow the law. We're going to go to the very bottom of the facts, and if somebody did something wrong, we're not only going to hold them accountable, we're also going to look at everything else that they've been doing, because when you're a liar, you lie not just on one thing. When you're a cheater, you cheat not just on one thing. When you're doing corruption, you generally don't just do it on one thing. So that's what we're asked to do as prosecutors, and that's what we're doing.
Well, we are all waiting for accountability here.
That, when I'm representing, and I'm not representing them, but if I'm representing, like Abby Lowell representing Leticia James, or the lawyer that's going to be representing Adam Schiff, who are being investigated for mortgage fraud, that is Exhibit A in my motion to dismiss the indictment, if there is ever an indictment. Although, let's put a pin in that for a minute. That is my Exhibit A to have the indictment dismissed, an admission by the prosecutor that he's not following the facts and the law where they lead, but that he's going after the person. He's going after the person to try to look at every corner of their life, because if they're corrupt now, they're corrupt in everything. Listen, Ed, I understand the cockroach theory. If you got one cockroach in your kitchen, you don't have one cockroach in your kitchen. You have more than one, but that's not supposed to be applied to federal jurisprudence and civil rights and due process rights of people. You go after them for a crime, not because you don't like the person or you want to pay back the person for being opposed to your boss, Donald Trump. And you just said it out loud. See, we've said before that the Trump administration, Trump and those around him, have a nasty little habit. That's helpful. It's a gift, and we need to accept it. They make the evidence that's necessary to defeat their own indictment or their own case in real time. How else to explain Ed Martin's appearance? He doesn't have to go on. First of all, you already know that this is a political witch hunt because Ed Martin's on television. Why is he on television? Jack Smith never went on television. Merrick Garland barely went on television when he was the attorney general. This guy's got to show up in the Sunday morning talk shows to talk about why he's prosecuting. And then he said that he knows he's going to dump on them. He knows he's going to be a political hack and hatchet man for Donald Trump. So he says, well, their lawyers are already out talking about it. They're defending themselves in the court of public opinion. You're the prosecutor with the awesome power that's been granted to you under the Constitution and by our Supreme Court to prosecute the law under proper ethical considerations. That's a bar complaint walking. He's a walking bar complaint, Ed Martin. There should already be drawn up for the Washington, D.C. bar a complaint against him for what he just said out loud. We're going to follow the facts and the law, but we're also going to investigate the person? We're going to... Okay, so back to the point I made at the top of the hot take. They have no real interest, this Department of Justice, which is just a subsidiary of the Trump campaign, right? They're not an independent law enforcement agency, investigative agency, prosecutorial agency. They're just an arm of Trump Incorporated and the Trump campaign. That's why they don't care where these prosecutions lead. They already got what they wanted. They got the headlines the first day in all the major newspapers and media outlets that said, Schiff and Leticia James, federal probe opened concerning mortgage fraud. That's all they wanted. That's all they wanted. And to be able to have that as a constant talking point whenever the time is necessary, whenever the time suits them. That's all they wanted. And they got it. Now what happens, whether there's going to be an indictment, unlikely, by the grand jury, unlikely. But whether there is or there isn't, they got what they wanted. They created a news story to go after political icons and leadership of the Democrats. And that's all this is ever about. California was never under attack or in a siege mentality, except when Donald Trump sent the troops there. Donald Trump, there was no national security interest at stake in California, nor in D.C. They're just blue states and blue municipalities that Donald Trump wants to embarrass a blue mayor and a blue governor. That's all.
Hey everybody, Ben Meiselas here from the Midas Touch Network. I wanted to let you know about my podcast partner, Michael Popok's new law firm. It's called the Popok Firm. Michael Popok's pursuing his dream of starting his own law firm, really based on the popular demand by all the Midas Mighty and legal AFers who are approaching Michael Popok with their cases and saying, can you help us? And at that time, Popok was not able to. So he went out on his own. He started the Popok Firm, where he is now handling catastrophic injury cases like car accident cases, trucking cases, malpractice cases, big negligence cases, wrongful death cases. So if you or someone you know have a case like this, the consultation with Popok's firm is free. Give him a call, see if you have a case. It's thepopokfirm.com, thepopokfirm.com, or you can call 877-POPOK-AF, P-O-P-O-K-A-F. So 1-877-POPOK-AF. Give Michael Popok a call, and I'm really proud of you, Popok. Thanks for all the hard work you're putting in.
Yeah, you'll never see any of Donald Trump's law enforcement behavior or policies in any red state. And so for Ed Martin, who could not get confirmed in the Senate, but was given the special counsel, special attorney role by Donald Trump anyway, to then go after Donald Trump's main political rivals. You know, you've got the other one, you know, Clinton and Obama are going to be investigated for who knows what about Hillary Clinton in 2016 and 2020, whatever it was. So let me just unpack for those that are coming late to the story. Adam Schiff took out a mortgage on a house in Maryland and listed it as primary residence because he works in Washington, D.C. most of the year, and he lives in Maryland. Now, the Constitution says that for a senator, you have to be a resident of the state that you're going to represent at the time of the election. Okay, he was, when he was elected state senator, a senator from California. And I assume before the next election in 5 years, he'll go back and he will renew his residency in the state. And the people of the state of California will say thumbs up or thumbs down on sending Adam Schiff back to the Senate. That's how that works. It's not mortgage fraud. Mortgage fraud would be he listed 2 homes as his primary residence. That would be mortgage fraud, but that's not what's being alleged. What's being alleged is the home that he owns in Maryland is being listed as his primary residence while he's supposed to be a California resident, only at the time of the election. That's the little nuance that gets missed by the Trump administration and Department of Justice on purpose. Leticia James, she owns a couple of pieces of property. One she lives in and one she doesn't. I think one she owns with her father, or both she owns with her father. I'm not sure if she's married or not. And in the multiple forms. And if you've ever taken out a mortgage, it's a raft of forms. It's sky high if it wasn't digital. They listed the father as her husband a couple of times. It's on the wrong line, the wrong signature line. Okay, I don't think she really benefited from that in any way. You don't get a discount because you're married. She didn't take any tax deduction because of it, listing him falsely as a dependent in that way. And then they claim, she has a 5-unit multifamily in New York. Okay, but up to 4 units gets you the better mortgage rates, but it's really a 5-unit. But she said it was a 4-unit. No. Have you ever dealt with the Byzantine world of the New York building code and building and planning and zoning and planning? It's a 4. Yeah, it might have been a 5 at one time when it was built, but it's 4, and it's listed as a 4, and that's why she got the mortgage deduct. And how is any of this a crime? You got a civil problem with something that happened, then go after them civilly. But for this conspiracy of the head of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, Bill Pulte, who's a Nepo baby of the first order and a mini Trumper who wants to run for office, who in a pitch and catch moment wrote up a complaint and sent it to Pambondi to Ed Martin to John Sarconi, the acting interim Northern District of New York prosecutor, to go after Leticia James on mortgage fraud by Ed Martin, by Sarconi against her office for successfully bringing a case for civil fraud, persistent fraud under New York law in New York, that a trial judge, after 9 weeks and mountains of evidence that filled the courtroom and dozens of witnesses, including Donald Trump's own people, ruled against Donald Trump. They're investigating that office by the feds for violation of Donald Trump's civil rights. Come on. First of all, that's a violation of a number of doctrines where you can't investigate an attorney general for a state from your position as the Federal Department of Justice. But this is what we're watching. So thank you, Ed Martin. Go on television more. I want Ed Martin on television a lot. I want John Sarconi, the guy that's prosecuting or looking at the New York Attorney General's office from his perch in the Northern District of New York. You go on television. Trump go on television. The more you go on television, the more evidence against your case and the more in favor of Leticia James and Adam Schiff and Obama and Clinton will be generated. And we're here for it. We're going to catch it. We're going to talk about it. We're going to explain it. I'm glad you're here on Midas Touch Network and on Legal AF. We're not changing our name. MSNBC's brand got so bad that they now had to change their name to MS Now. I don't even understand that. MS Now. What the heck does that mean? News, something, world. I'm like, this isn't even a proper sentence. Midas isn't changing its name. Legal AF is not changing its name. We don't have to. We haven't sullied our brand. We've built a brand with you. We are the change that we've been looking for. And together we'll overcome this Trump administration. I'm Michael Popok. Hit the free subscribe button for Midas Touch. Come over to Legal AF MTN for Midas Touch Network. Do the same thing over there. And join us on Legal AF Substack. I do about 2 lives a day. We've got all the filings there from all the courts and all the orders for you to read. We've got original written commentary, original videos. Come over. If you really want to support us, here's the way to do it. Hit the Legal AF paid membership. It's about a Starbucks coffee a month. And you'll be getting some amazing exclusive content there as well on Legal AF Substack. So until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.